Cody, this one's for you, bro. For your channel especially. If everyone can remember, I had a Ferrari that was destroyed by the police in UK, West Midlands police. They unlawfully took the car off me and used different excuses to why they're not returning the car back to me. I just want to give you guys a bit of the facts of what's gone on since then. As you know, I'm currently on the run in Dubai, but I can give you a bit of the briefing of what's actually taking place to date. The police had me under investigation for almost 2 years, and in them 2 years I was interviewed literally like 13 times. The prosecution kept saying to the police officer in charge, insufficient evidence, don't charge me. So the police officer, instead of dropping the charges, he kept rebailing me, hoping that he's going to find some more evidence. He struggled to do that. In them 2 years he had my assets on a restraint order, which means you can sell them, but as long as the money goes to the police nominated bank account, which we all agreed, even the judge agreed to that. After a long 2 years of my assets being on a restraint, it come to light, the police officer found out the prosecution were not going to charge me, and they were going to release me with no charge. So at this point the police officer decides that he wants to take the Ferrari, which I was driving on a daily basis, and make different excuses to say why he's taking the car. So I was stopped by 2 officers. That video is actually on my Facebook channel and my YouTube channel. Cody will give you the links to watch that if you guys want to. And what's happened is I was driving and I got stopped by a male and a female officer. The first excuse was that I had a marker of firearms on me, so it's why they stopped me. But they were in a little Corsa Panda police. They had no rights to stop anybody who has a firearm marker. I didn't even have a firearm marker, so it was a false call to begin with. This is where I knew they're up to some silly games. They didn't search me, they don't handcuff me at that moment, but then they say, oh, they believe the car's stolen, so they changed from it being a firearm marker to now a stolen car. But hang on a minute, this car was on a restraint order for 2 years, so why would they put a stolen car on a restraint order by Crown Court? It don't make sense. So at this moment they handcuffed me, kept me in handcuffs unlawfully, but told me I'm not under arrest. So I told them to release the handcuffs. They wouldn't do that. So they got about 12 officers come out on the scene on the roadside when I was just alone. I had neighbours recording it, so it's all this is recorded, by the way. The officers told me that it's DC Rob Piper, who's the investigating officer for the fraud case which I was alleged for, and he's authorised that car to be seized on all circumstances. Doesn't matter what the reasons are, they need to have the car seized. Cut the long story short, they've taken the car. Bear in mind I was on bail for the fraud case, interviewed 13 times, and prosecution on all 13 times said insufficient evidence against me, released me with no charge. But the police officer didn't seem to be having any of it. He didn't want to release me. He kept rebailing me, hoping that he's going to fish out for some new evidence, or in this case pin a false case against me so he can make his case stronger against myself. He took the car. After 3 days he come back that it wasn't stolen, the parts wasn't constructed from any stolen parts, I had insurance, everything was above board. So I asked for my car to be returned back to me. They refused to give me the car. I have actually got an email which I'll send to Cody, and he might put a link on it, where you can see the police officer in charge of my case replies back to the officers who are now dealing with the Ferrari to saying, do not release no matter what. So in essence, that he didn't want the car returned back to me no matter what I provided to them. So at this point I summons the police officer to court. It was on a Friday. I summoned them to court to saying that you must return the car back to me. What the police officer and the prosecution done, they went to court in my absence without notifying myself 2 days before on a Wednesday, told the judge to remove the car from the restraint order, and they're returning the car back to myself. So the judge was under the impression that the vehicle is being returned back to me we must have come to some sort of an agreement, and the judge was happy to do so in my absence. Otherwise, I had to be present. But because they misled the judge, telling him that the car's coming back to me, the judge agreed for them to do that in my absence. So when I went to court on Friday, I was told the car's been returned back to me. When I told the judge that I just got an email this morning telling me the car's been destroyed, the judge nearly fell off his chair. He was really angry and really pissed off why he was misled by the police and the prosecution. So he summons the police officer and the prosecution to court the same afternoon. When they come to court, they sent a different prosecutor who was just involved partially with the case. So her excuse was that she doesn't know the full ins and outs of the case, so can she ask for an adjournment before she gives a response to why they misled the judge. The judge wasn't having any of it, but eventually he agreed for a 30-day adjournment. He told them to reply back to him on the 30th day to why he was misled and why he was not told the background that I was asking for my car to be returned. And had he had known the background, he would not have acted the way he done. I got all this in black and white in writing. So on the 30th day, believe it or not, they replied back to the judge that wherever they basically told the judge and why they lied to him. But that reply till today I've not received that, and they're not willing to give me that either. On the same day they replied back to the judge, what the police officer does, he manually overrides the CPS decision which said insufficient evidence, do not charge me, release me with no bail. He manually overrides it, the police officer, and he manually charges me. If anyone knows a bit about law, a police officer has got no rights to override a CPS lawyer's decision. Only a CPS lawyer can do that. So for that reason, he manually charges me just to cover his ass. Now, because he knows that he's destroyed my Ferrari and he's in deep shits and he needs to give answers. So to cover his back, he manually had to charge me. So since then, what's happened, my Ferrari case has been brushed under the carpet, and the false case he had put against me, which was the fraud case, he continued pursuing that case. And my legal team, the legal team got paid almost £250,000. They took that paycheck and abandoned me during my 10-week court case. I had the 10-week trial. They left me with no representation, no solicitor, no barrister. I've got a recording which confirms that they walked out on me during my trial and it wasn't my fault. I simply asked the barrister, are you leaving me because it's my fault? He goes, fault's not the issue. I go, oh, another reason, you leaving me because you don't want me to give evidence? The barrister goes, that's one of the reasons, but I can't tell you the main reason. So whatever the main reason was, the bottom line was, it wasn't my fault. So the judge legally had to provide me with a new barrister and a new solicitor. He failed to comply with the unrepresented defendant, which was myself. I wasn't educated enough for myself to represent myself. I ain't got a law degree or anything. So this is where we stand at the moment. Now it leaves me on the run in Dubai. It's been almost 2 years away from my family and kids, in a country that I don't know nobody. I'm literally like a refugee in this country because I'm not a local, I'm not a resident in this country. I don't hold a passport here. So the struggles I've been through are unbelievable, and they're outrageous the way the law has acted unfairly, not just with myself. They do this with a lot of people. A lot of people are in jail when they should not even be in jail, because some people don't have the money to defend themselves. Some people don't have a voice. But I'm going to make sure my voice is not just for myself, it's for every single person who's had a miscarriage of justice and has encountered the police being wrong against them. You know, we've got a justice system that's very, very, very unfortunately one-sided. But I'm going to get my message across. A lot of people now are showing me support, and it's much appreciated. And I appreciate all the support I've been getting from all the public, especially after reviewing all my evidence on my Facebook, which I've posted. The views have now been changed. A lot of people are now supporting my cause, and I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And Cody, again, I appreciate you reaching out to me, bro, and I'll send you all the evidence that you can put on your YouTube channel. During my YouTube channel, sorry mate, during my police interviews and my trial, I wasn't given like all my evidence. I was supplied cherry-picked information which only prosecution benefited from. All the evidence that benefited myself and my co-defendants was not supplied to me. I had over thousands and thousands of messages that were withheld and blacked out, which if you look at my evidence on Facebook, you'll see a lot of the evidence that was not given to me I've gotten now. And you after reviewing my evidence, please leave a comment on Cody's channel to say what you guys actually think, because after reviewing it'll self-explain. I got like almost 15,000 messages and they were all blacked out. You can't see nothing but black ink. You'll see on the evidence on the videos that Cody will supply the links to. None of the evidence was supplied to me. Crucial evidence was withheld from myself. Phone downloads were not supplied. The phones were given back to the prosecution witness before my case was over. You know, I believe I suffered the biggest case in miscarriage in UK history. You know, we all know over 900 cases have dropped just for disclosure exercise alone. And I've had not only disclosure exercise, I've had my case papers missing from the judge's desk during my trial. I had my jury members that were drunk during my trial, and the judge tells them it's okay, drink within your limits. What judge in his senses would tell a jury member to drink within your limits? You're not meant to be under any influence of any alcohol, any drugs, whilst you're attending as a jury service. So in my case, my court case was not even a case. I'll call it as a circus. My case was outrageous. The way they treated me, it was unbelievable. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to supply all the links, all the videos to Cody, and he can attach all the ones that are appropriate and show all my evidence. I had so many other issues I can't even think of at the top of my head. I've got them all the videos, I've got them all in detail. I'm just doing this as an intro of the background of what's happened with me. I wasn't given my evidence, I wasn't given text messages, I wasn't given phone downloads. My jury members were drunk in my case. I've had my barrister, bear in mind my barristers left me unrepresented. The day they walk out on me, prosecution make a false allegation against myself, and the judge remands me into custody for 4 weeks. So out the 10 weeks trial, I spent 4 weeks in prison with no case papers, no defense team, nothing to represent myself with. I wasn't allowed to cross-examine my main witness myself. I wasn't allowed to cross-examine my witnesses by coming out. I had to do it behind a barrier, which it's not fair for me to do that because I'm representing myself. I should have the same rights as a solicitor to come out and represent myself. So, you know, all this was done just to cover the police officer's tracks, because I called him a paedophile, because he is one. He was a head of paedophile group, the police officer, in the paedophile department, but he for some reason stepped down as an officer and come and started investigating myself. So why did he step down from being a head of paedophiles department? It don't make sense. He must have either caught slipping, or either he's up to something that he doesn't want to show. The moment I expose him as a paedophile, he's gone personal. He's destroyed my Ferrari. As you can see, I'm in another Ferrari now. This is a newer one than the one they actually took off me. So I'll just give you a little tour on the car. This one's a 488 Spider. But just before the police get excited, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm in a car and it belongs to me. So DC Piper, well, DC Rob Piper, if you're watching this video, you ever get to watch this, don't get excited. It's not necessarily the car belongs to me. This can just be for a demo purpose only. But ain't she lovely? Anyway, I'm gonna leave you guys to it. Peace out.